Well, my friends, I took a couple of days off and I went to Snyder and to go visit the family and check on the other house and stuff and I was over there and they ordered me 10 dozens of tamales. They were like both days I was over there they were like, "When are you going to get back? I want 10 dozens." So I'm like, "Oh shoot, I can't even take 2 days off." So anyway, here I am back at the tamale station. I've noticed some ladies on the when they're doing tamales, they use the whole leaf, the whole thing. Look how thick it is. And these are $8.99 a bag, and some places I've read that they're more. They're like $12. Some places, and they're expensive. And they're too expensive. So what I do is I cut it in, like, see, you fold it in half. When they're thick, if they're not thick, then you can't do this. But you could cut it in half and make two out of that one. And you still got a good sized tamale. And then you see how crooked it is, like uneven. So I'll go ahead and get my scissors and I even it up. I don't like imperfection. Well, some things you can't help. But still, you still got your good sized tamale. Then I'll cut the top. And sometimes when they're wrinkly on the bottom, you can cut that wrinkled part. Let me see if I can find one. Well, here's a couple of them. They're kind of wrinkly. When they're wrinkly on the bottom, they're not that smooth. So what you can do is you take your scissors and you can cut all that bottom part. And get rid of a lot of those wrinkles. See, a lot of that unsmoothness on the bottom. So you do that. Go ahead and cut the bottom. And then when you have these little horns up here, you can still use the thing as long as you have this much space right there. What you can do is just cut off the horns and straighten it out. And you're going to use this part right here. So it doesn't matter if this part's uneven. That uneven part's pretty much going to curve it anyway. So you take your masa and you spread it. See, I've already been spreading for so long. Some people, when they start spreading, they have a hard time getting it to stay down. But I've already made my masa. When you've been doing it a long time, believe me, all this making the masa, you don't have to drop it in water to see if it floats. You feel the texture, and you pretty much know when your masa is ready. When you've been doing it a long time. And like I was saying, you use the juice of the meat. If you don't have no juice of the meat because you already had plenty of meat cooked, you just stick your warm water in there, or water as hot as you can feel. You don't have to be super, hot. It can be warm. And then you mix your spices, your masa meat flavor packet. And you stick that in there. You stick, not all of it, you stick a portion of it. And then how it turns your masa into a orangey color. You get, the more redder your meat, like if you stick your meat juice, the more redder you're going to get it. But like I said, if you already used up all your meat juice, you don't have any more right at the present. Then you just stick that masa mix in there. Use the meat mix. And then meat tamale mix, and then you do that, and you put garlic and salt. Put plenty of salts, but at least a 3 tablespoons, I would say, at least, because if you don't put plenty, you have all the flavor you need. There's times I didn't put enough, and I could taste the difference. So you gotta make sure you put at least a good 3 or maybe even 4 tablespoons of salt in there. But if you have your meat juice in there, that meat juice already has salt, so you don't have to put as much salt. But I would still put at least 2 or 3 tablespoons anyway. And you kind of taste the itty bitty bit, it ain't gonna hurt you, and it's not gonna hurt you. So to taste it. So and then you put your blanca manteca that I showed you. It's 1 pound of the lard. I use that green one, green and white that says lard, whatever, and that's the bread I use. And then I use the masa, the one that's, I can't remember that word. Anyway, whatever. That green and white bag. And so it's easy to spread. So you just get about that much on your spatula. And then I do have one of those that you just spread across. But when you get used to doing things your way, you don't want to change. So see how smoothly it goes on there? It'll take a couple of seconds to get it done. So I don't need to use that thing that goes across. Do it all once. So anyway, you guys, for Christmas I sold probably 150 dozens. And then on New Year's, I don't even know how many. I lost count. So I sold a lot of tamales. So really, do I have to go to work at a real job, out there in the city limits? No, I don't. I don't want to. I do music on the side. I write my music. I sing. I attend church when I feel like it because I don't like all the churches here like I did in San Angelo. I like San Angelo churches. I don't really like the ones here. And I don't know. From now on, I'm not judging all the churches. I'm just saying the ones I've come across, they're just, I don't know. They're just not what I'm looking for. Like, it's not the same anymore. So I find more joy just watching it on YouTube and studying my Bible here at home, singing here at home, and practicing here at home. And I don't know. A lot of them churches just ain't the same anymore. All they want is, to be honest, in my opinion, all they want is money. That's all they want. So they just want money, and they all think their church is the one that saves, and God is the one that saves. And God doesn't need our money. But I know the churches need money to support the bills and stuff, but don't let that be their whole motive, their whole. And I'm not saying it's wrong to go. You can go, and I'm sure there's some that are good. And it's important you pay your tithe, but I pay my tithe, but I pay it in my own way. I don't pay it the way they do. I'd rather help the poor or whatever, not give it to a rich church already has abundance. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to criticize them. They can do what they want. What they do is their business. They're going to answer to God someday. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about the churches. I was here to talk about my days off, and my grandson wanted me to drive them. Well, not drive them, to drive their vehicle back because they wanted to go buy something. Well, she wanted to go, his girlfriend. Well, they wanted to go buy something, and for me to drive the way back. But I was like, that city has over 1 million people. Like, I could drive in cities like, say, this one. And I think we have maybe 80,000 people or 85,000 people here in this city. So it's not that big. But in a town that has over 1 million, almost 2 million people, they drive crazy, So anyway, what they do is their business, but they just asked me if I wanted to drive their car back, and I was like, oh, no. While they went to pick something else up. It's like, no. So anyway, I was just checking up on the house over there and everything's fine. Like I said, you just cut these, make them straight. Cut the top. And these pieces don't go to waste. You get these pieces and you put them in your pot towards the bottom, and when you lay all your tamales, say you don't have one that has that metal piece on the bottom of the steamer. And so you just do that, and then it keeps your tamales from sticking to the bottom. Like if you were to try to almost overcook them, they're not going to stick to the bottom. Or they're not going to burn on you. These little pieces of what are the ones that are going to get toasted, not your tamales. So you don't want to burn your tamales. So anyway, see, you got enough right there to still do your tamale. My tamales ain't the biggest, but they're really good and tasty. Believe me, you still long, and you still get plenty of, for, the price I